You. I'll start.
Okay, let's do this. Okay.
Payne County, Oklahoma.
Wow.
Welcome back
Welcome back, y'all.
to Pastors of Payne. My phone is blowing up at this moment.
No one cares about me.
I guess not.
Well, why don't you tell them? Tell them we're on a podcast.
Excuse me, I'm recording a podcast.
God. Can't you send them a picture of yourself and say you're interrupting?
Like when people have that feature on where it says, I'm driving. We'll respond later.
I'm podcasting.
Excuse me, I'm recording a podcast.
Oh yeah.
Welcome back, everybody.
Yeah. Well,
It's good to have you.
Did you practice some forgiveness last week? Because
We did talk about that. Yeah.
I have a litany of your faults that I would like to go over.
You know, one really cool, this is a cool thing. Father Kerry went to college at a Benedictine monastery, Conception Abbey.
Uh-huh.
I went to my seminary at a Benedictine Abbey, St. Meinrad, Indiana. And one of the things, I don't want to be a monk, but I admire the people who do want to be monks or are monks. But one of the things they do in the monastery is they have this thing called the Chapter of Faults. And basically, it's like an opportunity. I mean, from the old like Seinfeld Festivus, you know, the airing of grievances.
Yeah, yeah.
When you're in a chapter of faults, you make known. I think you make known your own, but then I've never been to one, but like, I think you make known your own faults and ask for forgiveness of the community.
Yeah.
And then I think people can like jump in and like name some others. Maybe we should do that in the house. What if we did that in the parish? Oh my gosh.
Oh,
that would be so interesting.
I meet with my staff, and one of the questions I ask them is like, I ask them like, what are you working on this week? What are you working on? Is there anything you need help with? And they give it, and it's like, and I always throw in there like, is there something like you need me to do to help you, or am I getting in the way of you actually doing your work?
Or stop doing?
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes they're like, yeah, actually, you haven't like said you're doing a good job in like months. I'm like, yowzas. Okay. So then I write a big banner. You're doing a great job, and I run down the hallway.
I give them a sticker.
Yeah, I put glitter in their car.
It's a cat hanging from the ceiling, and it says "Hang in there."
No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's like I sometimes enjoy when people say, "Hey, you need to fix this about yourself." So, chapter of faults, but please don't.
So let us know. Just write in and tell us what's wrong with us.
We did a show on that. I was about to say we should do a show on that, but we did.
We could do an updated show on that. That actually would probably be interesting because that was 4 or 5 years ago.
Right. That's right.
What's wrong with us?
Hey, we
did a show. It was called What's. Yeah, or what? Well, the first show, which generated some controversy, was called "Annoying Things Our People Do," and then we followed it up with "Annoying Things That Priests Do." So yeah, we could follow up with that.
Yeah. Hey, I got a song that's going to lead into our topic today.
Oh,
and it's I was listening to Randy Travis earlier today.
I like Randy Travis,
and he's got this song "Digging Up Bones, Digging Up Bones."
Randy Travis is good because he's in one of the National Treasure movies, and I love those movies.
Yeah, exhuming things that's better left alone. And I love this line. I'm resurrecting memories. That of something was, I'm resurrecting memories of a love that's dead and gone. And tonight I'm sitting alone, digging up bones. Anyway, hey, you're giving this presentation on St. Peter and Rome and the Roman Church.
I gave it last week.
Hey, I invited you to Ted Cherie, and you didn't invite me to this talk?
It's in Spanish. It was in Spanish.
And? I know the word huesos.
You can, we have our Spanish formation every Wednesday night.
I'm kind of busy.
I know.
But you still didn't invite me.
I forgive you.
I forgive you. Look how great I am. Look how great I am.
Everyone,
notice.
Look at me.
Notice I'm humble and I'm forgiving.
I am the most humble person ever.
I forgave you.
Okay. So last week, very interesting. We do on Wednesday nights, we'd have, it's a whole like Spanish extravaganza. There's adoration all day, which is great. And then we have confessions from 5 to 5:45. There's Spanish Mass at 6. And then we have our Spanish formation. We have nice dinner.
Okay.
And then we have a topic. So this semester, we decided that our topic would be kind of like apologetics, just some of the basics of the Catholic faith. Because what we find is in a lot of our Spanish speakers, they don't. They've told us like they have a hard time like defending the faith. So their Protestant friends or their atheist friends kind of come up and want to know things about the church, and they know there's an answer, but they just don't know the answer. Anyway, so we decided to do like a little 3-week series on church history.
Whoa!
So 2 weeks ago, Father Healy gave a kind of like just a summary of like the Acts of the Apostles
in Spanish.
In Spanish, yeah. So in the early church, he's got all these kind of maps and where did Paul go and all this cool stuff. Well, anyway, so then last week, my presentation was basically I was trying to get across that when we say in the creed that the church is one, holy, Catholic, and then the fourth mark of the church is that the church is apostolic. And so like, what does that mean? And so I was basically trying to show that Jesus had the apostles, Judas died, they replaced him with Matthias, and then the 12 went out to the 4 corners of the world, of the known world, and evangelized. Yep. So basically the presentation was, who are the apostles? Where did they go? How did they die?
They're all dead?
They all died.
Oh.
And so how did they die? And then where are they buried?
Whoa.
And the beautiful thing, I remember learning this like in college and being like, okay, why did I never know that? That the 12 apostles are all buried in Catholic churches.
Come on. I know St. James, obviously in Compostela.
Yes.
St. Peter in Rome.
Yes.
St. Paul outside the wall.
Paul, I didn't include Paul in the 12.
Okay, but where are the rest?
But they're in various places. They're all in various places in Italy.
Thomas is in India.
Yes. So yeah, they're all in. This was my presentation. They're all in these different places.
Oh.
So then I told the story. So I ended with St. Peter. You'd think I would start with Peter because Peter is first pope. Peter's kind of the first among the 12. But I ended with Peter because I then went into the history of why St. Peter's is where it is.
Oh, an engineering feat.
And it's amazing, I think, how few Catholics know the story of why we call ourselves. So officially we are, most of us are Latin Rite Catholics.
Right. Okay.
R-I-T-E, Latin Rite. But there's like Byzantine Rite, so you're one of those.
Greek Ukrainians.
You're bi ritual, right? There's Ruthenians, there's
Yep, that's right.
Okay, back to focus.
Okay.
That was really funny. Anyway, why are we Latin Rite Catholics? Roman. We often refer to ourselves as Roman Catholics. What's the Rome part?
The wandering. That's what I was saying.
Because you would think like didn't Christianity start like in Jerusalem
or Antioch?
Right. So what's the deal with Rome? Like Rome is kind of far from the place of the resurrection.
It is.
So basically what happened, and you can read about this in the Acts of the Apostles, is Peter and Paul end up in Rome.
They roam over there?
Yes. Peter and Paul end up in Rome. So Peter, I just want to tell you the story about Peter. So Peter is the first pope. Peter is the leader of the early church. And there's this emperor, the Roman emperor, whose name is Nero in the first century.
Bad guy.
Nero, bad guy. So Nero hates Christians. The church is very much underground. So this is first century, right? Christianity was not legalized until early 4th century, early 300s, Constantine, okay? So for 300 years, the church, it was illegal to be a Christian. We were underground. Peter is the leader of this underground movement. Very small church, but growing, spreading.
Okay.
Nero doesn't like it. So anyway, there's a big fire
Oh, yeah.
in Rome. Big fire. And fires in those days, everything was made of wood. Fires spread. Lots of things get destroyed. Well, Nero blames the Christians. And the Christians didn't do it, but Nero blames the Christians. So Peter is arrested. Peter, as the leader of the Christians, is arrested. Peter is sentenced to death. And so Peter is brought to this very particular place, and he, as the story goes, they're going to crucify him. They're going to put him on a cross.
Like what Romans do.
That's what Romans do. Peter says, I am not worthy to be crucified in the same manner as my Lord, and so turn me upside down. So there's famous, you can Google the Caravaggio image is the best one of the crucifixion of Peter. So Peter he's an old man, probably 70 years old. They flip him upside down and they crucify him. So Peter dies on a cross, and he dies in this very particular spot.
Wow.
The spot where he died, you can visit it today, was near this hill. So Rome has hills, right? It's near this hill, and the hill was called Vatican Hill.
Oh.
Okay. So on that hill, it was kind of in a poor part of town, outside the city. On this hill was also the Christian burial ground, cemetery.
Okay.
So Peter is killed, and what historians think happened is he was on the cross. It takes a while to die on a cross. That's why they lanced Jesus on the side, to facilitate his death, hasten his death. So Peter dies on the cross. So in the middle of the night, Peter is now dead, upside down on this cross. So the Christians, they want to give him a proper burial. First pope, leader of the church, but he died.
Yeah.
So the story goes, they go to this place where he was buried, to where he died, and to get him off the cross quickly, they just chop his feet off. So you chop his feet off so you can pull him down and get out of there. So Peter is buried on the Vatican Hill.
Yep.
And as people do, when you go, your grandparents die, your parents die, somebody in your family dies, you go and you visit.
Yeah.
Right?
How does that combo go? It's like, okay, bro, his nails, knock him out of his feet.
Chop his feet off.
Cut off his feet. Cut right at the shoes.
Who, me? No.
No, yeah,
You do it. No.
Yeah, I bring an axe. Like,
I'm not tall enough.
Who comes up with that idea? And then that's gory.
It's gory, yes.
And so,
but they had to act quickly. Okay, so Peter's buried, and then people visit the tomb. People visit this tomb, okay? So years go by. When Christianity is finally legalized, they know that Peter is buried there, and all these other Christians want to be buried near there because he's buried. They want to be buried near Peter. It's a huge Christian burial ground. So they build St. Peter's Basilica on top of the tomb of St. Peter. This is the original St. Peter's. St. Peter's number 1.
The wooden one.
The current St. Peter's is St. Peter's number 2.
Oh.
Okay?
Oh, yeah.
So Constantine builds this church, the Basilica of St. Peter, and it lasts from 360 or something like that, all the way through to 1600s.
It was a long time to keep a church around.
Long time, yep. So underneath there is Peter. He's buried there. Okay. So years go by. Old St. Peter's burns to the ground. New St. Peter's comes up. The church that we know today. 1650 or something like that. All they know is that Peter is under there somewhere. But they haven't really looked. Or they haven't found him. So in the 1930s, the Nazis come along and occupy Rome.
Boo, Nazis.
And in the middle of the Nazi occupation, Pope Pius, what was it, 10th? The 11th? I think the 11th. Pius the 11th. Orders these archaeologists to dig because Hitler, the story was, Hitler wanted Peter's bones.
Whoa. I mean, the guy was
He was collecting all the stuff, right? All the ancient artifacts.
Yeah. There were statues and.
So Pope Pius was like, we got to find the bones. So in the middle of the night, there's this search. Well, they come upon, they're digging out all these, because there's all these graves under there. They're digging out, and they find a very unusual kind of gravestone. And there's like some purple sticking out. Okay, purple, the royal color. And so they're digging and digging, and then they find the sign. And the sign says, Petros Ani.
Peter in here.
Peter inside. And so they dig and they dig. There's a whole story behind it. And they find bones. But there's a lot of bones in and around. So they take these bones and they kind of put them off to the side. They don't know whose bones or what. They put them in this little room. Okay, interesting story for you and me. We took a bunch of Bishop Kelly kids to Rome.
Yeah.
And we had Mass. We were assigned, you go there and you want to have Mass, they assign you a chapel. We were assigned what's called the Irish Chapel. And it turns out the Irish Chapel was the room where Peter's bones were stored before they knew that it was Peter's bones.
Because there was his tomb, and then inside his tomb were a lot of bones?
There was Peter's bones and others. Okay?
Why would they mix bones?
Because everybody wants to be buried near Peter. They didn't mix the bones, but there were other bones. Because everybody wants to be buried. If you could be buried next to the Pope, you'd be like, that's sweet. That'd be awesome. So they go through and they look at these bones, and what do they find? They find the bones of a 70-year-old man of large build. What did Peter do for a living?
Fisherman.
He was a fisherman. And they put all the bones together.
Go on.
And they find
there's
the bones.
Yes.
And
there's
what's missing?
The marrow inside.
Skin. Yes.
Skin, the cartilage.
What's missing?
The shin bones or ankles or feet.
No feet.
So the legend is true.
So they found Peter's bones. And so all this time, they were this basilica, the first one, and now the one we know, they were built on top of the bones of St. Peter. This ancient Christian burial ground became the Vatican Hill became the Vatican and the headquarters of the Roman Catholic Church.
Yeah, that's right. I do remember going on the Scavi, the excavation.
So you can go down underneath St. Peter's.
Yeah.
You're about 50 feet underground.
And you're underneath
You're in these ancient walkways which led to these catacombs of tombs of whole families. And then at the end of the Scavi tour, and you can do this, you can go down there, right? It takes like a special ticket. If you listen to this, you're going to Rome, like, let us know. And we can, you don't only get tickets through priests, but like we can tell you who to call. And anyway, we got you. You can go down, and at the very end of the tour, before you come back up, is you are in a room with the bones of the fisherman.
That's his tomb. You're in his tomb?
It's Peter's tomb.
So cool. Wow.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
I've been down there 3 times. Okay. And the first time I was just like, this is like, I don't even believe you. Like, this is crazy. Like, this is nuts. Yeah. I always thought, I don't know, St. Peter's was built there. I don't know, that somebody donated some land. I don't know. I mean, that's why we build churches in places. Somebody gave us the land at some point, and let's build it here. But basically, St. Peter's Basilica is a monument to
a Christian graveyard.
It's like a gravestone of our first pope, Peter. And so there he is, buried underneath. And they found him. And so now we're the beneficiaries. For all those years, everyone was like, hey, he's down. I don't know, he's down there somewhere. Well, now we know. And we have his bones. And so going to visit, The first time it was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. This is So the second time there was a group in front of us and it was actually really beautiful. So the first time I went, I was a seminarian. Second time I went, I was a priest, and there were the group in front of us was this group of like older priests, guys in their 70s and 80s. And I'm standing there kind of on the outside of the room because they were still in there, so we weren't allowed to go in yet. And I hear crying. And I'm kind of like, oh, that's weird. So I kind of peek my head around and look in there. And here are these, I don't know what it was, 4 or 5 grown men like weeping. So here were these guys, they're priests. They've given their lives to Christ and his church. We, when we're ordained, we say to the bishop, I promise obedience to, do you promise obedience to me and my successors? And we say, I do. Well, where do the bishops come from? Bishops come from the Pope. Anyway, we're all connected, right? And the Pope is our Pope, and it's awesome. And so here are these guys, like just this like emotion coming out of being in the presence of the bones of the guy who got it all started. Jesus started it, but Jesus said to Peter, you are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church. And right in front of these guys are the bones of the fishermen.
Wow.
And so then I went in and I was like, wow, should I be crying? I don't know, but I don't know. I'd been a priest like 2 years. What
are you crying about?
What do I know?
Yeah.
And then the last time I went and we went down there, I really wanted, it was selfish, but I wanted to be in there by myself. But I have this group of high school kids, So I basically all right, okay, everybody come on in. And we were in there, we prayed, we read the gospel account, we read Matthew 16. You are Peter, and upon this rock I'll build my church. And we're literally standing underneath the dome of St. Peter's Basilica.
Yeah, because it's below the Balticina.
Right below the papal altar of St. Peter's. And then the group left to go back up. And I basically said to the chaperone who was with me, I was like, can you just lead everybody out? Anyway, and I stayed in there, and I had probably just maybe 2 minutes. And it was awesome. And I think about it every time Peter comes up, every time a Peter feast day comes up, I think about those priests crying in the presence of the bones. And then I think about my little 2 minutes alone with Peter.
Wow.
And it's awesome. And that's why we're Roman Catholics. Because Rome is where Peter went, and Rome is where he died. So there's actually the spot where he was crucified is literally right next to St. Peter's.
That's where that obelisk is out front, right? That's
so the obelisk is in St. Peter's Square, and the story is that's the last thing that Peter would have seen alive.
Yeah, because it was stolen from Egypt. I think
we took it from Egypt. Yeah.
The Romans,
the Romans,
Nero and his boys,
Nero,
and his boys took it.
But we took it and put it right in the middle of our, this sacred spot.
Yeah.
The Basilica of St. Peter. It's right in the middle of St. Peter's Square, as the last thing that Peter would have seen.
I hear national treasure. It leads to
national treasure. On the bottom, if you lift up the obelisk, it tells you who shot JFK. No.
40 tons.
The President's Book of Secrets is underneath. But anyway, that's why. So when people say, I'm a Roman Catholic, that's what we're talking about.
The Church of Rome.
Rome is important.
Yeah, Rome is I love the as an Easterner, part of the as a priest of the Eastern Catholic Church, I love the dialogue between East and West, between the Orthodox and the Roman Pontiff, or Holy Father Francis, because Bartholomew, whenever he pens a letter, he always writes, "My brother Francis, first of the churches."
Yeah,
and that's a very important phrase because of the hierarchy of the churches. It's Rome, Rome, Constantinople, not Istanbul. It's Constantinople, the church. And then what is it like? Antioch, and then Cairo, and then Moscow.
Yep.
Yeah, so during that big like ordeal where Metropolitan Krill like excommunicated Bartholomew and the Orthodox bishops of Ukraine, there was this whole mess, and it was like you can't even do that because you're like way down the list.
Yeah, you're way down.
You're like modern.
It's a fascinating history. So when you see like Pope Francis in Rome, that's where he is. So he's not from there. Right?
The Roman Pontiff.
But we call him the Roman Pontiff. We call ourselves Roman Catholics. The Synod of Bishops that's going on, what's called the Synod on Synodality. Like, where is it happening? It's in Rome.
Yep.
We have an American seminary. You know, we don't stick it anywhere. We put it in Rome. Father Michael Pratt, Stillwater native, right? That's where he works now.
Amalfi Coast, so it's a vacation spot.
Yeah, I mean, why not put it somewhere
tropical?
Yeah, why isn't it in Hawaii, or why isn't it in
the American Seminary, the North American College in Rome?
It's the North American College in Rome. So anyway, I just think that's really interesting, and I think a lot of people don't know that whole history.
I think there's very few people that know that history. There's a great book that I picked up years ago called "The Bones of St. Peter."
The Bones of the Fisherman.
The Bones of the Fisherman. It's called the Bones of. I think it's called. You better check yourself. I think it's called the Bones of St. Peter. Maybe it's called the Bones of the Fisherman. I'll take either one of those. Come on. Google it.
Keep talking.
No. So anyway, as I was preparing for a pilgrimage to
the Bones
Rome,
of St. Peter, a first full account of the search for the apostles' body.
Okay, I forgive you.
Bones of St. Peter, I beg your forgiveness. Then there's also one called St. Peter's Bones.
I forgive you for
how
lying
the relics of the first pope were lost and found.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Because the guy who was working on it took the bones and then like put him in his closet for a while, and then the chapel. It's really fantastic history. And I, as a lover of archaeological digs, I thought it was pretty slick on how they got the dirt out while the Nazis were occupying the city of Rome right above it. Like how they got all that dirt out of there.
How did they get the dirt out?
They moved it out quietly, super secret. It was a secret operation.
Like Shawshank Redemption, where he put it in his pants?
Exactly.
And he just like shook his leg out into the courtyard?
Yeah, that's right. And then moved it around.
Every priest, every night would put a bunch of dirt in his pants.
Like carry it out.
Carry it out.
No, it's just a really cool, like what they found in there, they found old Roman coins because all of that necropolis, that city of the dead, had been covered over with dirt since
for a long
360.
Time.
So let's get 1,700 years it had been covered over with dirt. Yeah. Just wild stuff.
Amazing. So that's the that's the history.
Okay. Okay. So
it's pretty fascinating. So you can go and read about it. And really, if you go to Rome, I mean, especially like college students, you can they travel abroad. If anyone's going over there, the Scavi tour. And then I would also recommend. There's a wonderful book by a guy named George Weigel. And it's called Letters to a Young Catholic. Letters to a Young Catholic. And he just talks about kind of really just beautiful things about Catholicism. And one of the chapters is on the Scavi tour. That's where I first learned about it, was that book that I read as a young adult. It's probably 20 years old, that book. Just fascinating stuff. So this was like a sort of a standalone episode. I mean, I gave this presentation last week in Spanish, and it was on my mind, and I've been wanting to like tell this story a little bit.
I'm glad you did, because I think you're right. Most people don't know that history. And
That's us, man.
Uh-huh.
My other favorite stat is that the first 33 popes were all martyred. Not a good stat? That's a good stat.
It's a great way to get into heaven. I was like, that's it. That's how I need to. That's how
Pope
I'm getting
Francis, Pope number 268. Yay! Viva el Papa! And death to his enemies.
in. Y'all have a great day. Peace.